A guy walks into the optician's room and asks, "How much are your glasses?" Temba, the assistant, responds, "Well, it depends. They all vary." And the guy replies, "Oh, I see." And Temba says, "Then you don't need any glasses." Good evening and welcome to Talk with Rams Live. It is Wisdom Wednesday and the time to share some food for thought from someone in the know, but somebody with some thoughts. It may not be answers, but some thoughts. Talk with Rams Live is on Facebook, and we know you have liked the page already. We are on Instagram, and it goes without saying that you follow us there too, don't you? And if you haven't done so, please subscribe to our YouTube page. We are Talk with Rams on all platforms, and thank you very much for choosing us. South Africa has an unemployment rate of about 30%, give or take. More than 50% of the unemployed people in this country are young people, the youth. A recent webinar hosted by the Cyril Ramaphosa Foundation in partnership with the Cyril Ramaphosa Education Trust concluded that the answer to South Africa's youth unemployment lies in real partnerships between private sector, public sector, and civil society. I couldn't agree more. Add to this, we now have the COVID-19 pandemic, and it has put a spotlight on how desperately we need to create employment opportunities for young people. How then are we going to solve this problem? I don't think we're going to solve it tonight, even with my guest, but we can have a conversation to put around some thoughts, and we want to hear your thoughts too about how we can do this jointly as civil society, public sector, and private sector. So my guest tonight is Executive Director of the Cyril Ramaphosa Education Trust, Chantelle Oosthuizen, about this matter. Good evening, Chantelle, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good evening, Rams. Thank you very much for having me.
And as we agreed earlier, I'm not going to tell them where you're talking to us from. We want to keep it secret so that people don't know about your travels and where you are in the world. We keep it right here and have our own chat. Just by way of introduction, tell us a bit about the Cyril Ramaphosa Education Trust. Who are you and what do you guys do?
Thank you, Rams. The Cyril Ramaphosa Education Trust, we prefer to call it by the acronym CRET because it is quite a mouthful. But CRET is a partner entity of the Cyril Ramaphosa Foundation. The foundation has been in existence for over 15 years, and as an entity of the foundation, the trust has a mandate to support youth and skills development as we build an empowered and inclusive society. Obviously, we've realized the need for a focus on youth development, and the foundation sends a number of different sectors where we are active, and that is in education and small business development, so entrepreneurial activity and the education of our youth.
Excellent. And I say excellent because that's what it should have always been, isn't it, Chantelle? I mean, I've been bothered over the years that education was never linked to entrepreneurship. I mean, when I went to school, I was taught to learn to get my education, hopefully get a job. And I'm sitting here and thinking we should have started years ago to link education to entrepreneurship.
You're absolutely correct then. And I could, in fact, carry on for hours on this topic. So I'll keep it short. I think that there's a perception amongst many of our youth that they have to get an education, and an education only means going to university. Once you go to university, you get a degree and you join one of the big corporates and you work for a boss. And we haven't had a focus on the fact that entrepreneurship and alternative skills development can lead to so many other opportunities. That is something that I'm very passionate about. I believe that entrepreneurship is the way for us to solve many of the economic challenges that we have, and one way to address the unemployment situation in our country. And having said that, schools are starting to introduce entrepreneurship programs. We are very active in that field and trying to promote that sort of stuff, and to give youth an idea as to what it means to have your own business, to be developing our own corporations in this country. I'll stop there because, as I said, I can carry on.
Don't censor yourself, please. But I can tell you, outside travel, you and I share the passion for entrepreneurship. And that is why this platform exists. It's precisely to promote entrepreneurship, especially among young people. What prompted the webinar on July 9?
Well, I think that really, because of the space that we operate in, realizing that the challenges that we are facing as a country, the challenges we're facing as a world, really. I mean, we've been hit by the coronavirus. There's so much uncertainty out there. And what we really wanted to do was to host this webinar. It was entitled Committing to Our Youth, Committing to Our Future, in recognition of the fact that the youth have a role to play and they need to be supported. And we need further collaboration in order to recognize the importance of youth development. So we had a number of participants, we had a number of attendees, including youth organizations, NGOs, and the private sector. And it was really to open up this discussion about what can we be doing to support our youth going forward.
I so wish I had been part of this thing, Chantelle, because one of the things I've been trying to say to people is we need to teach young people the fearlessness of making mistakes. There is this cancer of wanting to be right. And I think that should be left to old people like us because our time has passed. Young people must just be allowed to make mistakes and try new things because that's how we're going to solve problems in the world and not want a linear solution to everything. But I was not there, and I'll hear from you what came out of it. But I'm going to ask you before I get to the outcome. In your view, and maybe it came out of the webinar, this current situation that we're sitting in, the economic situation that we're sitting in, how much does it affect entrepreneurship, especially in the sense where does it encourage people to go out and try their own thing, or they get to think things are too bad, I'm not even going to try my own thing right now?
Well, Rams, if we're dealing with Generation X, Generation Z, we're moving so fast with all of that. I mean, the youth today are living in a very, very different world to the one that you and I may have grown up in. And yes, there's still some challenges around entrepreneurship, but I think that we have to realize that our youth are our insurance for the future. And they need to be encouraged to try different things. And I mean, especially in an increasingly uncertain world. So entrepreneurship has to be supported. And I mean, there's just so many things that one can do to try to explain what entrepreneurship is, because entrepreneurship is the basis and can be the basis for so many things. I have examples whereby we offer a holistic program as the Education Trust in supporting youth. We've got a number of tertiary students that we support. And those tertiary students are going to university because they want to become engineers, they want to be accountants. A lot of them have this vision that they're going to become professionals and then, as I mentioned earlier, work for a big corporate. And we really try to push the fact that, so even in our interviews, I say to them, why do you want to be an accountant? And they say, because we want to work for one of the big corporations. And I say, I would have preferred if you said to me, because I want to set up my own accounting firm one day. And the youth need to be encouraged to think that way. But I have found with so many of our own students that they are starting their own little sideline businesses. They're setting up online businesses. They're setting up NGOs. And that is encouraging because as long as we support the youth in explaining to them that there are so many other options out there, and that we don't have to have hopelessness in the fact that perhaps you haven't gone to university. Opportunities exist. And as you've just said, with COVID and sometimes in really challenging times, there are even more opportunities that arise.
It can be political, Brado. And I know it can be a problem. The very much with the Cyril Ramaphosa Education Trust, so that's political with the president. Chantelle, I still believe the problem is that we have a government that is not geared towards entrepreneurship itself. And it's so difficult then to translate that to young people or even to our education system. Please tell me I'm wrong.
Rams, I can't speak on behalf of government in any way. What I can do, no, in fact, I can't speak on behalf of the president, but certainly Mr. Ramaphosa, as the chairperson of the foundation, as the founder of the foundation, he's the one who set up or pursued the establishment of our Black Umbrellas entity. And our Black Umbrellas entity focuses on entrepreneurship. So I believe as a foundation, we have recognized that, and it's been a number of years. I think that Black Umbrellas has been going for 10 years or so. And it's been under our umbrella for about 10 years. So we've recognized the importance of entrepreneurship. I can't speak for government, but I do see that schools are starting to introduce these programs. I'd like to believe that we need to be increasing the number of interventions within schools. We definitely have to have more conversations around entrepreneurship. If I can relate a very short story around that. Every year we host a career development workshop in Diepsloot, and we invite different stakeholders to that. And last year I watched a number of school kids who approached a lady who was who had a display, and she was a lady who sold beadwork. And they came up to her and it was like, what kind of business is this? And she said to them, do you know what? I work for myself. Every day I'm able to earn some money because I sell my beads. And every day I'm able to put bread on the table. And I don't have an education, but I have a skill. And I could see how the learners, actually embraced that because it was a lovely story. It's the truth. It doesn't mean that if you don't have the education per se, the degree behind you, that you can't continue. That's what entrepreneurship is also about. We can create opportunities.
We have a guest that we speak to every Monday on the show, and somebody asked him recently, why is it that some of these multi-billionaire wealthy people in the world don't even have a degree? And he said, exactly, because they're innovators. These guys think differently. They do amazing stuff. But he did add, and I know that you would agree with him, that this is not to say education is not important. In fact, all these big guys that are multi-billionaires, beneath them, they've got all these PhDs who are making things happen. So education is equally important, but entrepreneurs are slightly different in the sense that they are innovators. So let's talk about something else that for me would have come out, or at least would have been discussed during the webinar: corporates and small businesses. One of the things I do is I hunt and haunt corporates, the enterprise and supply development divisions of corporates, to find out what they do for small businesses, especially youth skills development. What did you guys discuss about that during the webinar?
There were a number of things that came out, and again, I need to try to align this, but I think that there's a divide between corporates and small businesses, okay? And when I say a divide, I don't mean it in a negative way, but very often support is regarded as is seen only as being having to give money to something. And that's a fallacy to me, because there's so many other ways that we can be working together. Collaboration is so important. So if you want to align corporates and you want to align small businesses, something like mentorship is so important, and mentorship comes up really, really often in the discussions we have. It's a very big part of our program also. But soft skills development, coaching, there are many things that can be done between the two to support each other. And you've also spoken about supply chains and things like that, developing entrepreneurs through supply chain opportunities. But there's definitely opportunity there, and the divide has to be, I guess, just lessened.
There's a program that we all know, and all support is been there for years now. Take a girl child to work.
That's
And
right.
I've always said, you know, if we took a child to work, but in this case, link them to somebody who's some kind of a business development manager in a business, just to teach them a skill of entrepreneurship, even while they're still at school, to say to them, you know, while you're studying, you can do one or two things that can teach you how to make your own money, but most importantly, teach you the one skill that I think all of us must learn: to fail. Because if you're going to get into business, you're going to learn to fail and have a thick
Absolutely.
skin and come out on the other side as a stronger person. I wish we could run a program like that.
I love that you say that, because I think young people, well, many people don't believe that failure is a good thing, but actually it's just strengthening our resolve to continue in some ways. You have to fail in order to succeed, I believe. But again, I support what you're saying about take a girl child to work. We've been involved in that program for a long time, and in fact, it led to a number of it led to us developing a number of other programs. And I've seen the impact of one day, and it's a morning, really. I mean, it's, you know, from 8 to 2 or so, bringing youngsters into a boardroom, and they're just blown away by that, because they don't have those opportunities. And the impact that it has on them in letting them hear from professionals, and it doesn't always have to be professionals, but listening to somebody in an environment like that. And we bring them into our small businesses too, but for them to experience it, the impact has been, I mean, it's been quite remarkable. And that's what a lot of people, whether it's individuals or corporates, don't realize, that a small thing can have a major impact on the skills development, the soft skills development of our youth. And the youth are our future. As I say, they are the insurance for the future of this country.
You know, if I were to be cursed tomorrow and be made Minister of Education, and I hope it never happens to me, there are two subjects I would add, and they would become compulsory in our country. Obviously, entrepreneurship, and the other one would be gender-based violence, because I think they are so important in our country. These are things that everybody must learn about, compulsory. Now, with entrepreneurship, somebody would ask, but why? And my argument is that it doesn't matter that you're going to end up being a judge. There are skills that you learn from entrepreneurship that will make you a better judge. That could include time management. That could include relationships with other people, adversarial people, because clients are very adversarial by their very nature. Clients always want the best for least money. So you get to learn to deal with people like that. So I wish we could make it compulsory for everybody. I would like a guy who gets his MBCHB to also learn that when he runs a private consulting rooms, he's now a businessman who practices as a GP, but primarily he's a business person. He must understand the business and bookkeeping and all those things that come with business. But that's me, and I'm never going to become Minister of Education. Thank God for that. Practically, Chantelle, what are some of the things that came out to say, how do we practically 1, 2, 3 things that can be done between now and 2030 to address youth unemployment?
We need further collaboration. It's one of the biggest things, is collaboration. And collaboration between a number of, you spoke of civic society, we need between organizations, we need NGOs on board. And very importantly, we need the youth on board. Now, something that we don't always embrace very well, and I've spoken about mentorship and giving of time, but something that is so important for the youth also, not only youth, for professionals and the youth, but is to look at starting off in volunteerism. Volunteerism, I believe, is so important. And as a youngster, you can go and volunteer at the local NGO. You can go because you pick up skills. You may not believe it, but you pick up skills. And volunteering from a professional's point of view means going to read to youngsters. I mean, reading is such an important thing also. It's such a basic reading skills on imperative for us. And that's something else that came out of the webinar that we hosted, is that early childhood development stage needs to be addressed. We need to be getting our children to read in order for them to be equipped for the digital age that we are living in.
Yes.
So, you know, I mean, I think collaboration, that we need to speak more, that we need to have a sense of giving of our time. It doesn't always have to be financial. Obviously, it would be nice to be getting, you know, devices, and it would be nice to be getting support for programs. But if we could just be opening up on some of those levels, an afternoon, a day, an hour of your time can make all the difference. But I'll throw it back to the youth also. I'm throwing it back to the youth, that if they want to get involved in growing themselves, they can start off. Don't say there aren't opportunities. There are many, many NGOs, struggling places that would love to have a little bit of extra help.
I agree. I know a bit about NGO work. I do it on the side. Well, actually, that's my full-time job. Are the corporates responding to the programs and the suggestions that you're putting on the table?
They are, but I can't speak for all of them. I mean, we have to understand the economic climate at the moment. The economic climate is tough. It really is tough. We're also, I mean, at the moment, we're faced with this whole thing of, when I had a program where I wanted people to be going into offices, to be experiencing that, we can't be running those programs at the moment. So we have to look at innovative ways of doing other things. But, you know, I mean, having said that, there's certain industries that are flourishing at the moment. Certainly our IT industries are flourishing. And we need to realize that we can come to the party. There is something from all sides. But I'd strongly encourage corporates to pay attention to these sort of things. And when I speak so much about collaboration, because in this space, there are so many entities trying to do things. I don't know the impact and how much it can be measured. We need to be speaking more and working more together in order to consolidate the support that's been given, because it's pointless throwing money endlessly into a pit, but there's no monitoring and evaluation of the success of those. There's no return on investment in effect. So collaboration, I'll speak of that greatly.
On that note, then, my final question to you is, how then do people who are listening to us collaborate with the Cyril Ramaphosa Education Trust, and I suppose with the foundation?
Well, I would welcome any discussions, really. I mean, we're open to discussing with anyone. But in order to reach out to us, I mean, you can follow us on our Facebook page, and it's the Cyril Ramaphosa Foundation Facebook page. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on LinkedIn. But I can also give you our email address, and that is info@cyrilramaphosa.org. But yes, you're more than welcome to reach out to us and for us to take discussions further.
Chantelle, I have done a bit of work. I know what you guys do. I truly appreciate, and that's the reason why we're having this conversation. I truly appreciate what you do. I hope, of course, it depends on the kitty. I hope you can reach as many people as you can possibly reach. I hope your programs grow from strength to strength, and more students get the opportunity to study through your help, and they come back to lead us into a new world that we never knew. We don't know the world we're coming into now after COVID. And hopefully those guys are ready to take us to the new place. We, as this platform, will endeavor to collaborate with you wherever there is any opportunity to do so, see how we can do some of the work, you know, electronically, and share with as many people as we reach on this side. But yeah, I truly appreciate your time and your insights.
Rams, I appreciate you, and I'd like to give a big shout out to all the youth out there and the entrepreneurs out there, and let's make a great success in building up our economy together.
Bye, Duncan and Hannah McInnes.
Thank you, Rams. You take care.
Thank you, and have a great evening. And that, folks, concludes Wisdom Wednesday. Tomorrow is Thursday, and all things equal, Thursdays have become very, I think we're jinxed for Thursdays. But all things equal, we've got an amazing game changer tomorrow. I think people don't like being called game changers. They all agree, and then on the eve of the Thursday, they all disappear. So our guest for tomorrow, fingers crossed, does not disappear. We've got an amazing game changer, and I hope you join us 7:30 p.m. right here on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Thank you, Fred, and thank you everybody for joining us and for your comments. We've seen them all. From me, Rems Mabote, good night and God bless.